Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. The Hawks go into Sacramento on a back-to-back and defeat the Kings 109-108 in a game that came down to the wire, but Dyson Daniels with a game-ending strip to help the Hawks get the victory tonight. I mean, not tonight. It was technically in the morning, but Hawks get a win nonetheless. Big victory for those guys out there on their 3-game West Coast trip. Obviously, we know the Blazers game was a game that a lot of people feel like the Hawks should have won. Right? Should be 2-0 right now on this trip. But things happen the way they do. They were able to come back and beat the Kings. Now you're 1-1 on your 3-game road trip with the Golden State coming up. So we're going to obviously break down that game and the performances from that game tonight. Obviously, I appreciate you guys turning into the Believe in Hawks podcast. Appreciate all the love and support that you guys give me as we continue to follow this Atlanta Hawks season, as we continue to go through whatever is in store for us as time goes on. If you're listening to this on YouTube, definitely hit the subscribe button, like the video, and everything on the sun. Also, if you're listening to audio, available on any audio platform, go ahead, leave a rating, leave a review. Appreciate that as well. And yeah, like I said, man, tell your friends, man. Tell your friends about Believe in Hawks so other Hawks fans can come to the podcast and watch what we're talking about, which is our Atlanta Hawks. So, like I said, man, Hawks with a good win against Sacramento. As you know, early in the season, Sacramento came to Atlanta and won, so Atlanta was able to get back in their house. In a game that was very remnant of what the Hawks have kind of gone through this year. Like they did against Portland. They start off really, really well. And then Kings, especially Keaton Ellis, just started hitting threes. That's usually been the Hawks' kryptonite. So they started hitting threes. They took the lead. Hawks looked like, oh, God, this looks like they lost control of the game. Crawled back into the game. And then really the second half, it was just a bunch of back and forth basketball, but the Hawks were able to make more plays late in that game to beat them, as a lot of these NBA games come down to, which is late game execution. So Hawks were able to get out of that game with a victory. When you look at the stats, Hawks shot 47% from the field, Kings shot 45%. Both teams, even though the Kings hit 23s, Hawks hit 16. The key in these situations for the Hawks, if they're going to lose the three-point battle, is try to be as close as you can as one of the key elements to not allow the three-point ball to beat you. Only having 4 less threes than Kings made it not that big of a difference. Obviously, both shooting 42, 43%. So, both shooting the 3-ball at a good clip last night as well. Hawks 83% from the line, Kings 74. Again, as we have seen throughout the season and even in the Blazers game, the Hawks don't have high turnovers, and I would say high turnovers for them is 17 plus. The Hawks have been pretty good. Tonight, they only had 14. Kings had 17. So they have to win the turnover battle because that's where their Hawks wins comes from, is when they are in winning the turnover battle or not turning the ball over a lot. When they get sloppy with the ball, that's when they start to kind of fall apart. Because especially against the bad teams, it seems like they do that more. And that's when those teams start to be able to get easy buckets, runouts, things of that nature, which obviously has been a big issue for the team. So Hawks tonight, 34 assists. So obviously they were able to move the ball very well tonight, get a lot of buckets off of that. Obviously, as people call it, Quinn ball. Able to do that tonight. Obviously won that battle. Kings won the rebounding battle tonight, 45-37. But it didn't come back to bite the Hawks. I'll say that, right? 7 blocks for the Hawks, 7 steals. Pretty. When you look at a lot of these stats, it's pretty close on a lot of categories. It's pretty close. There isn't like the Hawks just dominated or the Kings just dominated, you know what I'm saying, in these categories, which is representative of the game, why it was a close game. It was both teams just going at it, both teams just doing what they can, and, two teams that are trying to, win games. So, like I said, that's kind of how that looks from that perspective. Obviously, coming into this game, De'Aaron Fox, coming off 2 massive games, was someone that the Hawks knew they had to come in and defend. Wasn't as great as his last 2 games, but he still had 28 points tonight on 11 of the 23 shooting. You know, obviously he's a really good player, so you know he's someone who's tough, one of the fastest players in the game. But I think Dyson and the Hawks. Sorry, I'm a little tired, guys. It's a little early for me. Did a good job of defending him. And like I said, they were able to get the game-winning turnover on him at the end of the game, which led to this victory. So clearly the team obviously, you know, like I said, you get stars. You want to make plays when they need to. You want to try to get stops against them when you need to. And that way it limits the damage. Because really outside of him, Keaton Ellis, who just blew up in this game with 9 threes, was the only other guy who really beat the Hawks tonight. Outside of that, your highest score, it was 12 points by Trey Lyles. So the Hawks defensively did a good job on everybody else outside of those 2 players. And in a Keaton Ellis game, you know, you're not expecting Keaton Ellis to, in any game, to just say, yeah, I'm about to drop 30 on your head. So obviously that was like a, oh, shoot. And why the Kings were very much in this game. I mean, you could say Keaton Ellis just had a normal performance, like 15 points. The Hawks won this game easily. So, you know, obviously, Hawks again were able to survive that. They were able to survive that you know, barrage from Ellis, and especially in that second quarter. And like I said, hold steady and go on to win. So obviously, big there for the team to be able to do that in that position. Obviously, before the game tonight, Jalen Johnson was ruled out with some, I think they said right leg inflammation. They said he went through pregame warmups and just didn't feel right. Don't know if this is something that will make him miss game. This could just be at that moment he just wasn't feeling right. He'll be good Wednesday. Obviously, Jalen Johnson's been one of the guys who's pretty much played, I believe, in every game this season outside of last night. Also a guy who some numbers have shown when he's off the floor, the Hawks seem to struggle. So it was very interesting to see, okay, how did they go through a whole game with him off the floor? They still did what they needed to do. And one of the reasons is going to be because of DeAndre Hunter, which I'll talk about in a second. So this was also a night where the Hawks got Bogey, Bufkin, and it was Bogey, Bufkin. I'm blanking on the third person right now. I guess technically Hunter back, you know, since he was already back tonight, right? And going into the game, when you saw the announcement, you kind of thought the Hawks were going to have their 10-man rotation, and then that didn't happen because Jalen didn't feel right for the game. But you know, I think for those guys, this is one thing I will tell Hawks fans. Remember, this is these guys have not played a lot this season. Bufkin, that was his first game. Bogey, that was his second. And as you saw last night, they're going to be the players who are more out of sync than the guys who've been playing. So we have to let them get accustomed, get their timing down, get the reps down, get the chemistry down before we judge them super hard on what was going on. Because for them, they're just trying to get back into the feel of the game, get back into the feel of playing basketball right now. Because that's not something right now where they're like at their peak. Because like I said, they've literally not played until up to this point, especially Bufkin. So they're going to have their, like they said, both of them really didn't have great games tonight, but obviously they didn't play that many minutes. They were definitely 18 for Bogey. Usually Bogey's a 20-minute guy. And Bufkin, you would think, as backup point guard, would probably get around 15. So I'm sure that will increase as they get more comfortable, as they get more adjusted, as they get more, as they get into a better spot as things go on, right? So I'm not really too concerned and too worried about that. But that's kind of how that looks with them coming back into the rotation for the first time tonight, Bogey's second time, and then just waiting and seeing that adjustment period that comes with that. So something to keep a lookout for, keep an eye on, see what happens, right? But if we get into the players, the rest of the guys, Dyson Daniels, obviously, another game where he makes an impact defensively, tasked with guarding De'Aaron Fox, a guy who 14, 8, and 4 tonight. Also had 4 blocks. He didn't have any steals in this game. Kings did a good job of not letting him. I guess I believe it was funny. The strip should be considered a steal, right? Unless they're saying he never had full possession. That line says he don't got a steal. I would have thought that would have been a steal, but I guess not. But he had 4 blocks in this game. So he was active blocking the Kings shots tonight. And again, Dyson just showing that he can impact the game in different ways. You know, give you 14, still defend your best player, be on the boards, make some plays for some guys. He continues to really be a bright spot for this team. He continues to do a lot of really good things for this team. And, you know, I can't overstate his importance to this Hawks team and what he is for the Hawks. Just everything he does is like important to what they're trying to build there. And he's continuing to just play at a really high level doing it. So, you know, Dyson has been key. And like I said, when was the last time the Hawks had a guy that you felt good about guarding the other team's best player? Like, people were coming into this matchup looking forward to a Dyson Daniels, De'Aaron Fox matchup because they know the type of defender, the great barrier thief Dyson Daniels is, that we all know about what De'Aaron Fox can do. So, I mean, you know, it's funny. It's funny. It's like he went from guarding he probably guarded last game Shaedon Sharpe, right? Which Shaedon is a nice young player in this game for the Blazers. He goes on, plays De'Aaron Fox, and the next game he has to play Steph Curry. I'm interested to see how he's going to guard Steph Curry. So, as you can see, the Hawks are, you know, having a guy like that has just been very big for them. And like I said, I think it helps everybody else. It helps guys like DeAndre Hunter when they play. It helps guys like Ricochet. It helps guys like Jalen Johnson, knowing that it's not necessarily my responsibility to guard those guys. He's a guy who can handle those guys, and then I can guard their 2-3 options, and those may be better matchups for me. And then you just get a better defensive outcome overall. Obviously, don't forget the Hawks. Hawks are like held the Kings to 108 points last night. So with that, I mean, that obviously tells you that, you know, the Hawks have made improvement defensively. Remember, Hawks, a lot of these games last year were 120, 122 games. And now they're getting into these games where they're in the 100s or the low 100 teens. And I think that just shows the growth they've made defensively, which has also allowed them to have a chance in a lot of these games because they're not allowing these games to balloon into these back and forth affairs where if you don't have it going offensively, you could get left behind and now you're losing by 10, 15 points in that process. So Dyson's been a big part of that. Obviously, big kudos to him. Like I said, game-winning strip, continuing to play, continuing to be impactful on the court, both ends, doing different things. And I think that, for me, is really what's been, just like I said, the biggest thing about Dyson Daniels and the praise that he's got from a lot of people this season about what he's done. So really, really big stuff from Dyson. Really, really happy about what he's gave us so far this season. And like I said, as long as he's healthy, Hawks are going to be in good shape moving forward with a guy like him manning that backcourt, helping Trae Young. Feeling like that is a good combination between the two guys. But now we got to get into his backcourt mate, Trae Young. So when you look at the stats, first thing you see, 7 points, right? Trae Young, 7 points. You're like, wow, Trae had a god-awful game, right? And offensively, Trae's working through some things. I think someone made a good point last night that Trae doesn't look as explosive. He's struggling to get past bigger guys. Obviously, we know Trae has been dealing with that Achilles soreness. Could that be impacting Trae? Potentially. But, 7 points, man. So you're like, oh, man, Trae really, really sold last night. Trae Young had 19 assists, which is the most by any NBA player so far this season. And to me, the fact they won this game, he had 19 assists, shows, again, a shift in the change of the team. Because there was a time that Trae Young had to give the Hawks 25, 30 points for them to have a shot in these games. And now, a part of what they're trying to build there right now with Quinn is that we're trying to be able to be competitive and be able to move the ball and be able to play well, even without Trey or Trey playing that well in terms of the offensive side of the ball. And Trey, I think, has really embraced that, and he's trusting his teammates more than I think he ever has. And it's funny to say he doesn't trust him with all the assists he's had, but like he really is kind of defaulting to them. Like Trey Young only took 7 shots last night. Usually, if there's a 7-point game, he might have took 15, missed, a bunch of them. He only took 7 shots. So that tells me he was not looking to score last night. He took some shots, but he wasn't looking to score last night. And so I think with that, the fact the Hawks were able to still get all the contributions they got without Trey Young being a big part of the offensive contribution, again, just shows the growth of the team. And it makes me feel like, some people are going to look at the scoring and think Trey Young needs to do this, this, and this. Listen, he gave you 19 assists. He set up his teammates. The Hawks had 34 assists? He had 19 of them. He had more than 50% of the team assist in this game. So that just, again, is just showing you the maturation process of Trey Young. And that the Hawks are still able to, because realistically, with such a ball movement offense that they want to have, I mean, you would love to see Trey Young still impacting the game without scoring through his playmaking, because he is, as people saw him, an amazing passer. And you saw that in the game and why that was able to get them where they needed to go, which was to a win. So, like I said, obviously you want Trey to get the shot back. Hopefully that comes back against the Golden State Warriors. But at the same time, I think the fact that he was able to impact the game through his playmaking, kind of how it was against Chicago in that first half of that game, just kind of, again, shows you kind of how the team has changed in some different ways and how it's not dependent on Trey Young being offensive leader. Yeah, like I said, especially without Jalen Johnson, too. You didn't have Jalen, your secondary playmaker, and Trey Young, your best scorer. You didn't have their points tonight, and you still beat the Kings. So that tells you a lot. And one of the big reasons why that is because of the return to the lineup again. Doesn't play back-to-back, so it makes sense he didn't play yesterday. DeAndre Hunter, 24 big points, lead the team, big points to beat the Kings. So DeAndre Hunter, obviously, we know he's been out with an injury for a minute, an injury that people are still mysteriously like, what happened there? Felt like it was going to be day-to-day. Then it became week. Then it became 2 weeks, and then he had a kid. Like I said, congratulations to him. Came back, and in both games, and every game pretty much this season, he has played well. I mean, he has. He's played well. And, obviously I know Hunter gets a lot of slack. A lot of fans are mad. They think Hunter's not worth his contract. They think Hunter's not good. Obviously, a lot of people hold him to the fact that he was picked top 5 in the draft. They hold him to that. Thinking he never became a star player, so he sucks because he was drafted as the 4th pick. And I've said multiple times we have to get past that. You can't use that against him. Like, we have to move past the fact that he was the 4th pick in the draft. That isn't what he is. We have to understand the player he is. Okay, and now that we know the player he is, how can he help the team? And I really want to give a big shout out to Quinn, because Quinn has figured out how to use DeAndre Hunter and how to best use him within the scheme, which has led to DeAndre Hunter having really good games. DeAndre Hunter is a big, strong guy. Like I think that's underrated, that he's a big, strong guy. That's the difference between him and Ricochet. Ricochet is still building strength. DeAndre Hunter has strength, right? DeAndre Hunter can go down the post and bang with the guys and be able to create fadeaways or whatever shots around the rim. Because a lot of his shot profile is pretty much, he's kind of basically posting people up around the rim or attacking the rim and scoring off of that, especially if he gets a mismatch. And then obviously if he's able to hit threes, then that just adds to it, where now you have the guard at 3-point line, but he also can take you in the paint and go to work. And this is going to be a funny comparison to you guys, but it kind of reminds me a bit of Gallinari. Gallinari, if you remember him, when he wasn't hitting threes, he would get into that block and post you up and put the moves on you. Now, obviously, DeAndre is not the crafty offensive player that Gallinari was. But that's kind of what it reminds me of, a guy who would put himself in a position to kind of get him high percentage shots. And that's what DeAndre Hunter is doing. And that's what Quinn has put him in this offense, which has led to the Hawks having the success they've had with what DeAndre has done, which is leading him now having another 20-point game. And then also at the same time, this also is going to fuel the DeAndre Hunter off the bench argument. Now, even when he was starting, he wasn't playing bad. He was playing well. So I get, again, why people love it. I don't know if how long he's going to stick with Rishi Shea in the starting lineup. He may. Him and Hunter are basically playing around the same minutes right now, so you may not feel like you need to make that switch. But also playing 20, 25 minutes may be best for Hunter. And if that is how you feel, then maybe it is best for him to stay on that bench, which I think a lot of people think it is best. But, Hunter has been big. I said on Twitter, people got to give DeAndre Hunter his flowers, man. He has, for this version of the Hawks, DeAndre Hunter is very important to this team. Every year, you get different versions of a team, and so some players get different levels of importance to said team. This is probably the most important DeAndre Hunter has been to a team. You can maybe even say since last year but that was more just because they just didn't have anybody past him and Jalen Johnson. But now for this team, they have depth, but they seem to be better. Because I think the Hawks are undefeated when DeAndre Hunter plays. So the Hawks technically have not lost a game this season when DeAndre Hunter has played in some capacity. So that's when this team kind of can get at their best. That's why Quinn has talked about how important Hunter is to what they're trying to do. And like I said, DeAndre Hunter continues to impact the game and be a big boost for the team. Like I said, especially as, Bogey works his way back off the bench. Kobe works his way back off the bench. I think it's really good to see that he's playing at this level and playing really well. So big shout out to DeAndre Hunter and what he's done. Garrison Matthews had 9 points. He started tonight with the Jalen Johnson late scratch. Some people scratched their head, but obviously you also have to remember Vic Krejci did not play tonight either. Obviously, if it's Vic probably would have started. I know people were bad about Devin Rodney minutes. Again, Vic was here. He probably would have played. So I would expect Devin Rodney not to see the floor next game and potentially Garrison Matthews. I'm assuming that no one's going to be out next game and then Jalen will be back. We'll see. Clint, double-double tonight, ended the game, 14-14. Now, Clint's been playing a little bit better recently. I said a few episodes ago he wasn't making an impact. Now he's been making more of an impact in these games. Now Clint is starting to, I guess, get himself going. Double-double tonight, which was really big against the Kings. Obviously, the Kings got some size up there. He went out to bonus, attacking the boards. So big for Clint to get us a good double-double tonight. Rishi Shea, aggressive early, had 9. I think he had 9 points in the first quarter. Finished with 18, 6 of 11, 3 of 5 from 3. So he had a pretty solid game tonight. Really big contributions from him. Obviously, we know his offensive game has been a bit of a journey. How he'll be really good one game and he'll struggle offensively the next. But, definitely some good stuff from the rookie tonight. Defensively, again, impacting the game, rebounds, assisting, all over the place. Just, doing what he can as a young player to try to be effective and impactful in the game. But it definitely feels like with what Rishi Shea does in other aspects of the game, when he does get a shot going, it really feels more impactful, I feel like, because of what else he also does on the floor. I know a lot of people are still wondering why Quinn does not finish with Rishi Shea. I don't know if that's a trust thing. I don't know, because recently he's been finishing with guys like Krejci or with Garrison, and some people are like, we're really going to put them on the floor late instead of Rishi Shea. I don't know what goes by that. I don't know how that goes, but but overall, Rishi Shea had a really solid game. Congo with 72, nothing too crazy tonight. I mean, he had the second highest minus on the team. Congo's gave you some pretty decent games the last few, so tonight was just another pedestrian game for him. Like I said, Bogey and Kobe, 11 points between the two of them. Both obviously out of sync, playing for the first time, Bogey second time, trying to get the rhythm and stuff back. So I'm expecting that to come back. And then obviously Devin Rodney, 7 minutes, 5 points. He gave you 5 points in those 7 minutes, but I know people don't want Devin Rodney on the floor. So But obviously, like I said, big win for the Hawks. Definitely big win for the Hawks tonight. So they're on to Golden State. That's obviously the toughest and last game of this road trip. We'll see if they can beat Golden State, who's been like one of the best teams in the league this year. Then they go back home Friday for their third NBA Cup game against the Bulls. They win that game. They will be 3-0 and will set up a winner-take-all that following Friday against the Cleveland Cavaliers for the winner of the group stage and be able to move and go on to the road to Las Vegas. So definitely big-time stuff right here for the Hawks. But I think that's about all we have here on the Believe in Hawks podcast as we recap the Hawks beating the Kings in Sacramento. Obviously, guys, like I said, if you enjoyed the episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video. Audio listeners, show some love. Follow me on Twitter, Bryce_2K, if you want to keep up with my tweets, live tweets during the game. I didn't live tweet much last night during the game, but I tweeted after for sure. And I appreciate all you guys for tuning in for another episode as the Hawks continue to move forward in this long NBA season. It's your boy, Bryce Lewis. See you next time.